We're going to sign autographs, and there's a little girl that's like, Mom, can I get an autograph from Foreplay? Like, come on, man. Like, no, hell no, you can't get your autograph from Foreplay? Absolutely not.
The other tradition we have is arm wrestling, buddy.
Come on, man.
I've seen yours. I don't want to hear it. You're gonna okay. Cue the sexy music.
So you made Daisy Jade arm wrestle?
She sure did. Your hands are kind of sweaty.
You're so sweaty. I just got nervous instantly.
I've never tasted alcohol, never smoked weed, no cigarettes, nothing. When I was growing up and I decided I wanted to do music, I also decided I'm not going to do anything that's going to slow my progression. And all the people that come onto your podcast, I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's a beautiful thing what you do here. We need to be better people. We need to be better to each other and live a life. So everybody went to bed. I laid in the bed until about 3 o'clock in the morning. Waited till everybody was asleep, packed everything that I could, and had my friend come and take me to the Greyhound station, and never went back.
Welcome to the Barbells and Bourbon podcast, where you will find strength in stories from the comfort of my home. I am your big, bald, bearded, barbell lifting, bourbon drinking son of a bitch, Sean. And joining me today is Chris Ambition Myers.
What's going on, everybody? It's Ambition the Kid, formerly Foreplayer Pretty Ricky. I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me. As soon as you told me about the podcast, I was like, yo, I got to be on it. I got to come through.
Honored.
So I'm excited to be here. Absolutely.
It's great to have you in our home, and I've been very excited to talk to you. I have known you for maybe 15 minutes total. Yeah. We met very briefly in a kind of an unusual situation.
Yeah, I could definitely say that.
Maybe we'll talk about that later, but I got the very broad stroke story from you. You told me about Pretty Ricky and your solo career, and you mentioned you wrote a book, which we'll talk about later. And that's all fascinating to me. And everyone knows you for what you do, I'm sure. You have that identity.
Absolutely.
But I want to know who you are, Chris. I think the viewer's going to get a lot out of your story and your experiences. And before we started filming, you were talking about how those experiences can help others. If they face something similar, you will arm them with the tools to be able to get through that maybe a little bit easier, right?
Absolutely. Well, just to start off, I felt like there was a long time, I don't know if you're a religious person, but I'm a religious person. And there was a long time growing up and going through life where I felt like my life was like a big joke, it was like, I don't know, I felt like God was it was like something, he would put things in front of me that I always wanted, just long enough to snatch them away from me, or, God or the devil,
Sure.
Either way, I had this deep feeling that that's how it was.
Like you were being tested.
I was being tested. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who feel like that sometimes, and it took a long time for me to realize that this life is a test. So I've been through a lot and I've experienced a lot, but it makes you who you are. And that's what you're asking me. You said you didn't know who I am as a person, but I wanted to let you know and everybody know that Ambition, my name, is not just a stage name, but it is who I am.
I was going to ask you, what does that word mean to you?
Absolutely. So ambition to me is the strength to push forward no matter what it is that you go through, no matter what it is that life throws at you, whatever walls come up, the strength to break those walls down and move forward. And you got to realize that there are so many people out there who have way harder lives than us. There are people who have, muscular dystrophy or cancer, or their children have cancer. Imagine going through a situation like that. I can't complain because I had hard times, when somebody's going through something like that, and there's always somebody else who has something more going on in their life than you do.
Yeah.
And they're pushing their way through it. So when I think about those things and I think about my life, I haven't gone through that much, as relatively to what other people in life have gone through. There's people living on the street right now. And so ambition to me is that drive to take that next step, because you never know what that next step is going to bring. It's the step that you don't take that's going to end everything that you wanted.
Yeah.
Like if you decide, like, you know what, I've tried this for long enough. It's been 20 years, 30 years, and I haven't done what I wanted to do. So I'm done. I'm just going to settle. I'm going to just do, what I know will work. I'm going to work for somebody. I'm going to work at Walmart, or I'm going to, whatever it is.
Find your comfort zone.
I'm going to be an accountant instead of following my passion, my dream,
think there's
or whatever.
anything wrong with that.
Exactly. But you're just like, I'm an accountant and I make good money, but I want to be this thing. I want to be this singer. I want to be this, whatever it is. And then you give up on that because it isn't going where you wanted to go. And you're just like, I'll just settle in this job that, I'm fine doing that job, but you'll never be fully fulfilled in your life. Even if you do that thing and you don't become this huge success, that doesn't matter. As long as you're doing what you love doing, it's always a good thing. And I don't know how far you want me to take it back. But...
Well, we'll get there. I want to break check you real quick.
Yeah.
You touched on a few things that really resonated to me. First, you said, it's all perspective, right? Like your worst day could be nothing compared to someone else's worst
Exactly.
day, right? We all have our own rock bottom, and this is not a comparison between who's got the worst life, but my guest sitting here, I've heard some crazy shit, man. And I never expected to hear some of this stuff from the people that I thought I knew. And they're confessing to these crazy traumatic things or family secrets, attempting to end their lives.
Absolutely.
And it makes me realize, oh, I got it pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned, there's people living on the street. I started interviewing the homeless not too long ago.
Wow.
So I go down into the city of Pittsburgh and I'll find someone who's willing to talk to me to get their story. And every single one of those people so far, Chris, is not there by choice. They're there because of some shitty circumstance that put them in that position.
Absolutely.
And it's very humbling.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they ride past them and they're just crazy, or they're lazy or whatever. And you're just like, you don't know what's really going on in anybody's life. Like I know people who are close friends of mine who have mental illness, who wake up fighting the urge to, self, harm themselves every day. Like, and they really, really struggle with it, and like, imagine waking up every day just feeling like you're worthless, or like you don't want to be here in this life, and you think about life and like everything, all the opportunities we have, like just you walk out and you look at the sky and everything around you, and it's a beautiful thing. Imagine not appreciating or being able to see all of that because your head is telling you the opposite every single day. It's filling your body with the worst thoughts about yourself. And these are beautiful people, who are talented, who are smart, who have something to offer the world and their children and their family, and they feel like they're nothing.
Yeah.
Every single day they have to fight it away, and that's a struggle. Like, like I don't know if I could handle.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that, Chris. Like that's an illness. People that are in that deep depression and that darkness, that's an illness.
Absolutely.
And I know they don't want to be there, but
Exactly.
sometimes they have no idea how to get out of it. And then there's the people that don't look up at the sky and appreciate things, that have a good life. They're just so distracted by their phones or whatever else is going on in their heads, they don't actually open up and appreciate what they actually have.
Like it's funny that you say that, because I try to think about when somebody's like complaining to me, like they're like, oh, well, I don't have that. I wish I was just rich. I wish I was just this, da 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 da. You hear about people who were born into money all the time, and they can't handle it.
Yeah.
They can't handle it at all, and then they're gone because they chose to not be here. And because when you're born with everything, it's the other side of the fence. It's the grass is always greener. You're born with everything. It's hard for you to appreciate anything because you have everything. You've done everything. You've experienced everything. And the people who are born with nothing, you have the opportunity to appreciate so much because you were born with nothing. I was one of those people who was raised with nothing. I was raised living in. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I started on the east side of Pittsburgh, and I grew up in every ghetto in Pittsburgh in the worst time when it was, Bloods and Crips, gang violence, drive-by shootings every day. Like I used to live in Garfield and Columbo on Columbo Street, like in the 90s,
Yeah.
and we ran around like whenever there was a drive-by, it was like a game to us. It was like dodgeball. That's how often it happened.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
and I mean, I'm not joking at all. We ran around like whenever it would happen, instead of like running for cover and hiding, we were doing cartwheels and dive rolling, and it was a game to us. It was literally a game. That's mental trauma I can't even
I see.
explain.
Perfect example of perspective, dude. I've never witnessed a drive-by.
Yeah.
So I would be scared shitless, and here you are, like having fun with it.
Yeah, like it was a game to us, and it was, and I was living. It was one of the poorest projects in the city. And still, one day I came home from school, like I was in third grade, a bunch of my neighbors, well, friends, they were my neighbors, but I'll call them friends. We're walking home and we get to my house and everything is on the front lawn, like literally everything, and that's what happens when you get evicted. They don't give you a chance, they just throw everything out. But, I'm sure my mom knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know. She's not going to tell us
Right.
that. You know what I mean? But I'm very fortunate that every time that we would get evicted, we always had grandma, my grandma to run back to. And we would live with her for a little bit, and then we would move to Larmer or Homewood or something, whatever the next,
The next project.
the
on
next
list,
project or, whatever my mom could get us into. And then we would get evicted from there, and then we would move back to grandma's house, and grandma was always there. She would say like the Ghostbusters, who you gonna call? And we would say grandma because she was always there.
Thank God for grandma.
Absolutely.
So, Chris,
every
I have
day.
to ask, what was causing these evictions? I mean, obviously not paying the bills, but what situation was your mom in that was happening?
So my mother had sickle cell, and she actually died when I was 14 from sickle cell. But she always knew that she was going to die, like young. Like, so for her, and I didn't know this when I was a child, but for her, that made her want to try to live life as best as she possibly could in the moment, because she knew she wasn't long for this earth. So instead of taking her disability and paying the bills, she would say, how about we play the lottery, like the whole check on the lottery, and then we'll be millionaires, and then we can do everything that we want. Or how about we take this much money and we just, we go, I don't know, like we buy these books I saw on TV. They're going to teach you how to be psychic, and then we'll be psychic, and then we can hit the lottery because we're psychic. Like it was just all these little things that she would fall into. Like till this day, I have a Monopoly board that is cherry. It's the mint Monopoly. They had a collection. They had a cherry wood one. They had a crystal one. Like, and you see it on like infomercials, and it would be like, just buy this for 4 easy payments of $500, and like, and it's got gold and silver pieces. I have it like in my room on a stand, and my mom bought this. Like,
Instead of paying rent.
Instead of paying rent, it's like, why do we? It's never been played. It's still like in perfect condition. We never even played it, but she bought it just because she just wanted to,
That
indulge in
dopamine
life.
hit.
Yeah, like
just live in the moment, just
so
find happiness wherever
exactly.
she can.
So when I was 11, like one of the times we went back to our grandmother's house, my grandma, she had a nice house in Stanton Heights, which is like right across from Garfield. Um, and it's like the suburb, if you would say. But she had like a nice yard, and she had like a driveway and stuff that we weren't used to. And she had tools for that. She had her lawnmower, she had uh, shears, and she had shovels and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, well, Grandma, can I use your tools to start like shoveling snow around the neighborhood and mowing lawns and stuff like that? And she's like, well, I mean, yeah, you can use it as long as you do mine free. You can use it all you want. And I was like, all right. And I started doing that. Every winter I would shovel snow, $5, $10, whatever I could get. In the summer I would rake leaves and cut people's hedges and mow the lawn and stuff like that. Pick up garbage, whatever I wanted, whatever I could do. And because I couldn't get a real job, I was only 11. But by the time I was 13 and was able to get a job on the weekends, I got a job at King's Family Restaurant in Waterworks Mall. And I didn't have money for the bus, so I would just ride my bike there. Well, I had money for the bus, but I didn't want to spend that money, so I got a bike and just started riding from there, from from Stanton Heights to Fox Chapel.
Fox Chapel, yeah.
Yeah, and I would ride there and I would ride back. And I had actually had fun doing it. But by the time I was 13, I was actually making more money than both my parents.
Wow.
Because I was doing this and the neighbors thought it was cute. So they're like, all right, I'll pay you $15 to, shovel the snow and do the lawn and stuff like that. And that's a lot cheaper than paying at the time maybe $40 to a company to do it. And they thought I was cute. So they were like, all right. But at the same time, I'm making hundreds of dollars a week doing this because it's a big neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. But so I would do that during the week, go to school. On the weekends, I would work at King's until I was 16. Where I could actually work full time, and when my mom, she actually passed when I was 14, and my dad had another family. He had three young kids, in Swickley. They were living in a little house in Swickley. So my little sister, from my mom, she went to live there, and my dad gave me the option. He's like, all right, you can come switch schools, live, on the couch, sleep on the couch with us, or you can get your own apartment and I'll sign for it as long as you can pay for it. And I was like, well, I'll just pay for it. I'll get my own apartment.
How old were you?
I was 14.
You got your own apartment at 14?
14. My friends were super envious, but it was like, I could afford it. I mean, it wasn't the greatest apartment, but it was nicer than I was used to. It was in Morningside, right down the street from my grandma. So I was able to still go to my grandma's house and do stuff for her and still work up there. It was right up the street, right down the street. So, that's where I started.
I have two questions for you real quick, Chris. So you mentioned your dad like once. Where was he when you were in Garfield and Homewood and the bills weren't getting paid and you were getting evicted? Like, where was his role at there?
So he was always there, and he always tried to help as much as he could, but he started a new family, so he actually hurt his back, to where his legs would give out. He was a truck driver, and at some point he injured his back so much that his legs just gave out randomly and he crashed a truck. So they took his license away from him indefinitely, and he couldn't work. So he was on disability also, and raising three kids, my twin brothers, and they're not my twins, but they're twins. My twin brothers, Maurice and Michael, and my little sister, Melanie. And he always contributed, always gave money, but then she would take the money, and then she would do whatever she did with it. He was always there. He wasn't always the best, like he was always, like trying to juggle, all these kids, and it wasn't enough for us to get done what needed to be done, but he was always there. He always spoke to me. He was always my biggest fan. You know, he was always. I learned a lot from him. You know, I spent a lot of time in my youth resenting my mother, and you know, my dad was always. I was. You know, my sister Marlena, she was mommy's little girl, and I was daddy's boy. You know what I mean? And he taught me a lot. I learned a lot about life, about how to be a man from him. He was always there speaking to me, teaching me that you respect everyone. Yeah. The easiest thing that you can give to somebody is respect. You know, you have to earn trust, but you deserve respect until you don't. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's one of his biggest lessons that he taught me. And that's why I respect everybody and anybody that I come into contact with. You know, and it's made me the type of person that can get along with anybody and can mold into any situation because of that lesson. Yeah. You know, and I love him for that.
Where did the resentment for your mother come from? Was it because you kept getting evicted, or was it she left you too soon?
It was because of all the decisions. Like, because even though I was young, I was able to see these are not good decisions. This is not what should be happening. Why are you making these decisions? And I was seeing the results of them. You know, it's like, and so it made me have to, all right, I'm going to figure out how to go out so I can work, you know, and figure this out, you know. But at that point, I couldn't understand why she was making those decisions. I didn't understand that until later on, after she passed, and then I regretted all of it. You know, like I regretted not being able to be there for her when she's going through this mental health. You know, it's another mental health situation when, like, how does it feel to know that you're going to pass away early at 36? You know, like, I'm sure she thought she was going to live longer than that, a little bit longer than that. But to know you're going to die young, like, how could you handle that? You know, and I felt, you know, I didn't even get to see her when she passed, because when she went to the hospital, she went to the hospital all the time. And one time she went, it was like she was having a normal checkup, and then they were like, well, we're going to keep you and do some observations. So my grandma was like, we need to go down there and see her. So we all went. We stayed down there. We had to wait. We waited in the hospital for a couple hours, and they were like, you know what? We need to do some extra tests and different things, so you're not going to be able to see her today. You're going to have to come back. And I was like, well, she'll be home in a couple of days. I got work. And I never saw her again. And that's, out of everything that has ever happened to me or any decision I've ever made, that's my biggest regret. Because to me, it was just like every other time. I thought she was just going to come right back home. And she never made it. And then speaking to my grandmother after that, and also speaking to my father after that, they both told us that she knew that she wasn't going to be here long. And then everything made sense after that. And all of that resentment it went away in an instant, you know. But I lived a lot of my life with that resentment for the way that we grew up, when really she was just trying to have she was trying to make a way for us to have the best time with her for the time that she had, you know. So that was my mistake, you know.
Yeah. How much guilt did you hold on to for choosing to go to work instead of sticking around?
I still hold that guilt. Yeah. You know, there's no way to get rid of it. You know?
How do you try to cope with it?
Well, one of the things I do is, when you have guilt like that, when you make a decision like that, you have to accept it and accept what the reasons for that were, you know, and realize that as a human, we all make mistakes, you know, we all make bad decisions, you know. She was making bad decisions, you know, and she had a reason for it. I didn't know that reason, but I should not have held her to such a, you know, like, it just, first of all, when you're a kid, you want to be an adult so bad that you're trying to think like an adult. And it just shows how much of a kid you still are, because I was so blind. I didn't even try to look at it from her perspective at all. Like, I'm just looking at it from, we didn't have Christmas again.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never had a birthday party.
Yeah.
How come these kids that I know, they have Nintendo and mine just got stolen out of the window?
Yeah,
you know?
your surface level thoughts. You're
Yeah.
not thinking deep and mature thoughts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it took me to grow up. It was like, yeah, I could be working at 11. I could have my own apartment at 14. I'm still a kid. I'm still thinking like a kid. And that's why, like, you can't drink to a certain age. You can't smoke to a certain age, because your mind is not fully developed. So I also have to take those thoughts into mind, and try to accept the fact that I made a huge mistake and then move past it. But, I still feel guilty for that decision, because there's no way I can get it back.
Can't change it.
I can't get it back.
As you said, Chris, everything happens for a reason. And the situation that kind of comes to mind when you're explaining that situation with your mom in the hospital is, maybe she was in such a poor condition that you shouldn't have seen her in that state. And that's the last image you would have had of her for some reason. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think. Like, maybe you weren't supposed to see her for some reason.
I can definitely feel that. It's
I'm sure it's
it's
still hard to,
it's a hard thing, because to realize what she was trying to do later, so it's definitely a hard thing. And the thing about it is that another thing that I do, that I try to do for her, is my music. Like, I learned the love of R&B from her. The reason I even started singing was because back in the day, they used to have, when CDs were huge, they used to have a thing that you can order. It was like, order
Columbia
7
House
CDs.
and
Yeah,
BMG.
Yeah, exactly.
I took every opportunity to get my 10, 12 free CDs.
Exactly. And she did that, because she's always watching the things, and she's like, oh, I'm going to order that. Yeah.
I just dated myself.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm almost 46. I lived through that life.
Yeah. So she got like 7 CDs. It was like 7 CDs for 7 cents or something like that. And then you're a part of a subscription or whatever. And then they like charge you hundreds of dollars. But she ordered these CDs, and they came. And one of those CDs was Boyz II Men, Cooley High Harmony. And I remember the first song on that CD was Please Don't Go. And I remember hearing that song. My mom was always listening to New Edition. My first concert I ever went to was New Edition. I was 6. And I fell asleep by the time New Edition came on. So I totally missed them.
How would you feel if someone fell asleep during one of your concerts, Chris?
Oh man, it would be it'd be horrible. But I was 6. It was like way past my bedtime at that point. So that song, so she was always listening to New Edition, Johnny Gill, Keith Sweat, like all those, Whitney Houston. Like, she was always listening to R&B. But it didn't click to me until that CD, until that song, Please Don't Go. And this is sort of a long story, but not that long. So that song made me decide I want to learn how to sing this. And the way I learned to sing was by trying to imitate Boyz II Men. I would learn their CD as much as I could. And my mom hated, it was like, for my mom, it was like bringing home like a trombone. Yeah.
We're on the same page, bro.
Yeah. And she was like, please, you cannot sing. You sound horrible. Can you please go outside or take it in the basement? Whatever you're gonna do. You can't sing. You're not gonna be a singer. It's not your gift. Yeah. Try. I was just but I was so determined. I was like, I'm gonna learn how to sing. So I would learn that CD as to my best of my ability, and then they would come out with Boyz II Men 2, and they would get a little better. So then I would learn that CD to where I could mimic it to the T and learn every run and everything that they did. And then I would get better because they got better. And I just did that. And then Usher came out and Genuine, and I started to learn how to dance. And that's how I became the artist that I was. But that Please Don't Go record, became a part of, like, it built my career. It not only taught me how to sing, but it built my career, because one day I decided, you know what, I'm going to go in the studio and I'm going to make an a cappella version of that album. I mean, of that song. Yeah. And I did like 5-part harmony. You can do tracks, so you can layer
them
it,
on top. Yep.
and then I would sing the leads on top, and I made that song. Well, that was the song that my manager at the time took to Pretty Ricky, to Baby Blue, to let him listen to that, and that got me my audition for the group. That's how I got into Pretty Ricky. And then while we were on tour one time, we had just did the 300th episode of 106 in Park, and the lady who ran 106 in Park was like, "Hey, I heard you love Boyz II Men. They're good friends of mine, and they're performing right down the street. Do you want to meet them?" I'm like, "Absolutely!" Like, you know, like, this has been my dream. This is the success that I've been looking for, is meeting them. So we go down there, we catch the end of their show. I meet them. I tell them my story about them and how they taught me and how appreciative I was. And they're like, "Oh, we got to hear that song. You got to send it to me." So Juan Ye gives me his email, and then I send it to them. I don't hear anything. And like 3 months goes by, I don't hear anything. I'm like, "Oh, man, I should have never sent them that song. I wasn't ready. I was, you know, I did the studio, must not have quality, must have been good." And then one day, my phone rings, and it says Juan Ye Morris, and I'm like, "Who's messing with me? Like, who went in my phone and put their number in under that name? Like, who's messing with me?" I almost missed the call, you know. And I pick up the phone, and it's Juan Ye, and he's like, "Yo, sorry it took so long for me to get back to you. You know, we're on the road, so you know, like, you know how it is, but you killed that song." He was like, the harmonies, the lyrics. He was like, "You sung." He was like, "I don't know how you did all of our voices." He was like, you killed that." And he was like, "I just wanted to let you know that personally." And I lost my mind.
I can't, dude. That is like the craziest full circle story I've ever heard. The fact that was the first song you really heard as a child, and then to have that full circle moment where you're meeting them and they're listening to your version of that song.
And it doesn't end there.
Oh.
So then, after that, I'm with Pretty Ricky. We're on tour. Everything is happening. And then it comes to a part where I just, you know, things aren't going right. You know, the money is wrong, you know, and I was really like distraught in a really lost place. I'm living in Miami in a mansion with Pretty Ricky on tour, you know, doing everything that I loved. You know, like when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was have like one of those pull-out posters that, you know, girls would put up on their wall of me. Plenty of those, you know, like at this point I've achieved everything that I wanted to, you know,
not even close,
you know, like I'm there, you know, but I'm miserable. So I call Juan Ye, and I'll never forget it, because he's like giving his kids a bath or something, you know, like he's like washing his kids, and I'm like, "Dude, I can call you back at a different day." He's like, no, it's all good. What's going on? And I explained to him the situation. I explained, like, you know, they're keeping all the money, you know, even though we have a contract, they're keeping all the money. They're harassing me every day like I'm a college fraternity, like it's a hazing every single day for 3 years. You know, I'm like, they changed my name from Ambition to Foreplay. You know, it's not who I am. They're making me sing not how I sing, you know. I was like, this is a miserable experience. And he was like, "Look, if they're not letting you be who you need to be and things are not right, then you need to leave." He was like, "It happened with us before with Michael Bivins, you know." He was like, "We went through that, and then we had to reevaluate everything, and then we had to come back." He was like, "We came back under LaFace, and everything's been great since then." He was like, "But I'll tell you this, money or whatever the case may be, if you stay there, they will ruin music for you, your love for music. So it won't even be about your success or your money or whatever that case may be. You won't even want to do music anymore. You'll end up leaving anyway, and then your love for music will be gone." So if I were you, I would try to if the fixed situation cannot be fixed, then I would make a decision to leave. And literally 2 weeks later after that, I was gone. I was back home and with nothing.
What do you think you would have done without that mentorship and that advice?
I probably would have still made the same decision eventually, but it would have took a lot longer. Like hearing it from someone like him, who had been a huge inspiration in my life, in my career, and such a voice in one of the best singers to ever live, hearing that from him and him saying like, you will make it back. Regardless of how long it takes, if you keep pushing, you have the talent, you made it once, you'll make it again. If you stay there, you won't even want to.
Wow.
And I was just like, and then another situation happened right after that, and I was like, you know what? All right, I'm done. And I ended up home, literally with zero. I left with less than I came with, because if the way it worked is that when I was there, if they, anything that we needed, in food and stuff, I didn't have to pay rent while I was there. But I was constantly working. So they would, pay for food. I stayed with them. But everything else that I wanted, they had to be paid for on my own.
So you were getting paid to survive.
Exactly.
Nothing was going in your pocket, really.
Nothing. The zero. Like I didn't have my own car. I didn't have. I couldn't. I remember I was dating a girl in Miami. Her name was Estelita. She was actually on Love and Hip Hop for a while, and she was like this. She was like an up and coming model, but she was like traveling to LA and all of this stuff all the time. And when she would go to LA, she would leave her BMW truck with me, so I would have a car. Because we had 3 trucks at the house. Like we would use those trucks for like when we would go to an event that their cousins would drive. It was like our security or whatever. Everything was very in-house. But their father, Big Blue, is driving a Bentley and his girl is driving a brand new Cadillac. All the money's going to him, So, but we had to share these trucks, and obviously I'm the new guy, so I don't have. The other 3 are driving the trucks, and then I have, nothing. So I'm stuck at the house. And I remember even at one point they were like, when I started dating her, they were like, oh yeah, Baby Blue. He's like, she's only dating you because you're with us. She's only dating you because you're in Pretty Ricky and you're with us. And I'm like, yeah, but she's paying for everything. I don't even have any money. I can't afford to take her out on a
date.
A good date. Like what's going on here? Like what's happening? Like we were just on the most watched episode of 106 in Park. We're downstairs with LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes, everybody, literally everybody. I'm on tour 24/7. We're performing 24/7, and I can't take my girl to the movies and a nice dinner in Miami. Like, what's going on? And she has to drive to pick me up, and then we go out. Like, what's going on here? Like, what's happening
Just
here?
demasculated.
And you're buying all kind. Like, what's going on?
You were their puppet, right?
And it was crazy. And the thing about it was, it wasn't really, and I always say this anytime I talk about this to a friend or anything like that, it wasn't really slick and spectacular. They were always good to me. Me and Slick, like Slick is one of the coolest people I've ever met. So is Spectacular. He's smart. He works hard, and he does his thing. He actually has a successful business now on his own. But they were always, Spectacular was always trying to teach me stuff and make sure that I was good. And so was Slick. Slick actually came to Pittsburgh once and like performed with me with my band Radio Tokyo. And we did some Pretty Ricky stuff. One of the coolest people I ever met. But Baby Blue, he's the devil. Like literally, like he's an evil person. You know what I mean? I get along with everybody. He's an evil person, and so is his father, Big Blue. And what they were doing was just taking all the money. I literally heard a conversation that they had in their back room, in their dad's room, where they were like, this is how it goes. We make the money, we make them famous. Period.
They were doing you a favor.
Yeah. And,
In their eyes.
they were talking to my manager because some people who are from Pittsburgh, they'll remember this. There used to be a group called Crave that was from Pittsburgh. And they had a song called Real Chicks, Ask For It By Name. My boy Manny, he's still doing this thing. My boy Hollywood. They were, and Mandel, they were an amazing group. And they were taking over the Pittsburgh scene right around like when Wiz Khalifa was coming up. You know, it was Wiz Khalifa and it was Crave. And they were both just doing their thing. And I was the one in behind the scenes. I was the Prince of Mean Street. You know, there was this company, our manager, Big D, had a company called Mean Street. And it was like when I signed with them, it was like, all right, you help me get them where they need to be because I did artist development. So I would teach them how to perform, how to dance, how to do interviews, and how to, you know, work with the press and all the different things that you need to be an artist. You know, even at that young age, I was teaching other artists how to do that. So he hired me to do that. And he was like, I promise you, whenever they get where they need to get, then you'll be next. I was like, all right, cool. And we worked for 5 years getting them where they needed to be for free. I worked for free, you know, and we were like family. I loved them, you know. And then when Pretty Ricky lost their lead singer, they were about to sign Crave. And they actually ended up signing Crave. But they needed a new lead singer because Pleasure decided to leave for some of the same reasons. They were keeping all the money, you know, and I mean, that's all well and good for their family because Slick, Spectacular, and Blue, they're all brothers.
Okay, I was going to ask if there was a relationship there.
Yeah, but me and Pleasure are not, you know. So you can't keep all the money and hand out the money like an allowance. That ain't gonna work. So that's why Pleasure left and went and did his own thing, you know, and became super successful doing that. And then they needed a new singer, and because I was already ready is the only reason they chose me, you know, because and that's one of my philosophies in life. It's all for whatever it is that you want to do, no matter how far you think you are away from it, always be ready. Like if you're a singer and a dancer and you want to perform whatever, you should be practicing singing every single day. You should be practicing dancing every single day. If you're going to take off your shirt, be in the gym. If you're going to like all of those things, if you think you need to do, you know, whatever it is, whatever job that you want to get, you should be ready right now because like I said in the beginning, you never know what that next step where it's going to take you. Yeah. You know, like I literally was working a 9 to 5, like answering phones somewhere and working with Crave 7 days a week. And then one day on a Thursday night, like at 9 o'clock, me and my boy Jesse Mater, we had an apartment together so that we could work on music together. It'd be easier. And we had like a little studio in the house. And I had to go to work the next morning. 9 o'clock, I get a call and it's Baby Blue from Pretty Ricky. And he's like, yo, we want you to come out and audition for the group. And I was like, all right, like, when, you know, like he's like your flight leaves tomorrow at 7:30. Just be at the airport. You'll fly out tomorrow. You'll audition on Saturday, and then you'll go home Sunday. And I'm like, shit. Like, all right, you know, like so. I'm like, I call my job, give them some stupid excuse why I can't come to work, and then the next day I packed for the weekend and I flew out, and I didn't come home for a year. You know, like it was like, all right, you're in. Let's start learning the routines. Let's start recording the next album. And then like 2 weeks later, we were on the road and I was performing in front of thousands of people like that. Like, you know,
no preparation
at all. Like, it was just like, all right, you're good. Let's go, you know? And, yeah, that's how it started, you know?
So you're thrown into the lion's den. You
Absolutely.
Probably didn't even have a chance to be afraid or nervous. You were just, it was like 0 to 100 in a matter of a second.
Yeah. I didn't even have a chance to think about it, you know, like, and, but it was everything that I wanted. It was every you know, everything that I had wanted, even though I never wanted to be in a group. And actually, when my manager asked me if I wanted to audition for the group, I first said no. I was like, no, that's not my style. I don't want to. To me, I thought, I don't want to just be singing about sex the whole time. Like, that's not my thing. You know, like, I want to, you know, and it was like, it was just not my thing at the time. You know what I mean? Even though I appreciate every part of, you know, even the bad parts, I appreciate those lessons too, and just being there and having that opportunity to be there. Just even if I had a bad time, you know, I did something that most artists will never get to experience. Even though I didn't make any money from it, I got to experience something that a lot of people will never experience, you know, and I am thankful for that. I'm thankful to them, even Baby Blue and their dad. I'm still thankful to them for giving me that opportunity, even though he's the devil, like literally the devil. Like in a,
I mean, that says a lot about your character and the fact that you're not bitter, like living your life just this bitter, miserable person. You took the positives from a really shitty situation.
Sometimes you know, you take lemons, you get lemons, you got to make lemonade, you know, like, but I literally, when I left, I decided to leave on like a whim. Like, you know, I had the thought in my head, like, I don't know if this is going to work out, but maybe I should just wait and see. I would talk to my friends and they're like, dude, you're touring around the world. You're living in a mansion in Miami. Like, you're going to just come home?
Don't be a dumbass.
So, yeah, like, you know, like, and it's like, and then some friends were like, screw that, man. Like, you're worth more than that. Like it was literally like a situation where, like, so one time I asked their dad, like, look, you know, one day it would be good, and then one day it would be this horrible thing. Like, so I'll give you two different options. Like that girl Estelita that I was dating, because it was the only girl that I dated while I was there, so that I was way too busy, so that's the only reason I'm bringing her up. But one time it was her birthday, I wanted to take her to the movie, take her out to nice dinner and take her to the movies, and then I told her their dad, like Big Blue, I was like, look, I don't have any money, it's her birthday, you know, and he's like, I was like, I want to get a car. Like, I don't have a car, I can't do anything, like I can't even take her out for her birthday. Like
she's picking you up for her birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you know, like, and he's like, here's $500. Like, and here, take the Bentley. You don't need to worry about buying a car. You save your money. Your money's gonna come. Like, here, take the Bentley out. And I'm like, you're gonna let me drive the Bentley? Like, oh, okay. And that thought of me, where's my money and getting my own car?
Gone.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm out in the Bentley. I'm taking my girl out in the Bentley. We're going, and it's
smoke and mirrors, man.
Yeah, like, it's a way of manipulation to do that. But then there was other times where, you know, because I was so busy, it was like, all right, we're gonna have a date night tonight. You know what I mean? Like, and then I went down there. She came pick me up. We drove back down to Miami to go to the movies. I was gonna stay with her, and as soon as we were pulling up to the movies, Baby Blue calls me and is like, I need you to get back to the house right now. I need you to record this book right now. It's really important. There's a deadline. And I'm like, dude, I'm about to walk into the movies. They're like, I don't give a fuck about that movies. Like, you need to get back here. And I'm like, you know, like, so I'm like, all right. So I'll tell her, like, look, it's an emergency. I got to get back. And this is the day we broke up.
Makes sense.
And the you know, like, the reason we broke up because she was so mad about it, and I feel like she had like a little bit of bipolar disorder, because she literally lost it, and she was like, the thing that ended it for me, it was like, she was like, and that's why your mom is a whore, and because she never taught you how to treat a woman, and blah blah blah. And I was just like, you know what? You need to pull this truck over right now. Yeah. On the middle of 95, I was like, let me out. And I got out, and Spectacular had to come pick me up. And then I get to the house, and Baby Blue's like, oh, never mind. And he just did that to dominate. Yeah. To show his power. For one, he's 5'1", I think.
Little man syndrome.
Or he might be 5 foot. And every single day, not every day, but every other day, it was some type of, you belong to us. We'll send you home. Then what your friends going to say? You were just on TV. Now you're back home with no money and da 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 da. You with Pretty Ricky. You do what I say. Da 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 da. Even when it was time for me to sign my contract, and we had already been to Atlantic Records and we had already done 106 Park, doing all this stuff, and he brings me the contract. Here, sign this, and I'm like, well, shouldn't I have like a lawyer read over this, or at least Big D, my manager? No, we need to sign right now, so you need to just sign it. And I'm looking over it, and I'm like, dude, I don't understand what any of this means. Right. You know what I mean? He's like, you don't need to understand it. Just know that if you don't sign it, tomorrow you're going home. And when you get home, look at what your friends are going to say to you. Like, what your friends are going to think. You were just on 106 in Park. You were just announced as the lead singer of Pretty Ricky. Now you're going to be home, going back to your regular job, driving your shitty-ass car around. Like, what are you going to do?
That's some crazy
Sign the
emotional
paper.
abuse, man.
Yeah, it was back and forth, back and forth. He swung on me 3 different times. You know, the last time that he swung on me was the day that I left.
What, he hit your belly button?
Exactly. The two first times he swung on me, actually the third time he missed too. Because I don't actually think that he was trying to hit me. He was trying to prove a point that I am the master of this. And you look up to me, you do what I say. That was the point. But he wasn't actually trying to hit me, because it's like, dude, you know that you can't beat me. Right. But he also knows I can't hit him either. You know, so it was that type of control. And, you know, like I said, there's always, you know, it could have been worse. There's people complaining right now and talking about how, you know, the whole Diddy situation and things like that, and like being taken advantage of that way. You know, like, it was never that type of situation, but it was still control. Yeah. And it was still like holding my dream over my head to make me change my name from Ambition to Foreplay. You know, my name was Ambition since I was 8 years old. You know, when I had a group, when we were called Ambition. You know, and you know, like, you made me change my name from Ambition to Foreplay because he said it sounds like you're still trying to make it. That's what ambition sounds like to him. Wow. You need something that fits with us. So you need to change your name to Foreplay. It's
Sex.
Like, okay, yeah. Baby Blue, Spectacular, which Spectacular is his name on his birth certificate, by the way. Spectacular and Slick. Foreplay? Like, come on, that doesn't fit.
It sounds like a joke.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do. And it's like, when I go out, we go out and we're going to sign autographs, and there's a little girl that's like, Mom, can I get an autograph from Foreplay? Like, come on, man. Like, no, hell no, you can't get your autograph from Foreplay? Absolutely not. Like, but I had no choice. You know, it was like, when I said, no, I'm not changing my name to Foreplay, that's stupid. All right, well then, go home.
Now, so Baby Blue's like saying all this stuff to you, knocking you down, saying that, you know, you have nothing without us. Did you believe him?
Absolutely not. I always knew that as an artist, as, you know, as far as my talent, I was always better than him. Now, he's a super smart guy. You know, he's super talented as far as constructing beats and different things like that. I'm not taking anything away from him as an artist, but he's not better at being an artist than I am. You know, it's like, yeah, I might be new to this, and I might be new to being on the level that you are, but you're not me. You didn't create me. You didn't live my life or teach me any of the things that I've been able to do, and you didn't pick me for no reason. Like, yeah, you might be able to replace me at a whim, and they took steps to do that. Like, I was only allowed to wear, I had to wear sunglasses at all times, and they're like, that's your star power. That's how you're a star. That your glasses are your star power. And it's like, no, it's not. It's so that if I leave, you can put glasses on another black guy, and nobody will know the difference.
They were hiding your identity.
They were hiding my identity. They were hiding the fact I wasn't allowed to talk about how I was from Pittsburgh, even though I was able to sneak it in there every now and then. But most of the time, I wasn't allowed to do interviews, period. And I remember, I'll never forget the day they brought me into the living room and they were like, look, so this is what we're going to do. Right before our radio tour with Atlantic, they were like, every time they ask you a question, Baby Blue's going to say, he don't talk. He just sing. We found him in the bushes. He's a monster. Sing it, Foreplay. And then I would sing the hook to Knockin' Boots or whatever song we were promoting at that time. And then once I sang the hook, they would take over any questions that they were asking me. But everybody wanted to speak to me because I was a new guy. They wouldn't allow that. And the main reason is because they were like a man who is scorned because their last girlfriend cheated on them. So now they got this new girlfriend. They're going to take every measure to make sure that I cannot do the same thing. I cannot leave and make any connections or have anybody know who I am as an artist or as a person so that they connect with me so that I can leave and they can hold that threat over me. I have no connections. So in that, this is why it's taken me so long to do anything, is because they held me from all connections, from all, nobody even realizes who I am. I walk around Pittsburgh and sometimes people will recognize me, but if I don't wear sunglasses all the time. If I'm not wearing sunglasses, people are like, oh, well, who are you? You know what I mean? Like they took that from me. They took all recognition. And not to mention, after I left, they went on a whole radio tour smearing me with my old manager, Big D, and my friend Manny, who was in Crave. Not to mention, I meant to get to the part where how Crave got broken up. When they were having that conversation about, well, we make them famous, we get all the money, it was because they were deciding that they didn't want Crave. They wanted Manny because he was the best singer in the group. But that was always the plan. They always wanted Manny, and they wanted Manny to join Pretty Ricky. And that's who took my place when I left. So they concocted this whole story after I left that they told the other two members of Crave, well, Manny has to join Pretty Ricky now, so we have to break y'all up because of what Ambition did to y'all. And it's like, no, they made that. I was there for that decision. We're going to have Manny. We don't want them to, because they're competition. They're another group. Why would they put on another group to compete with them? A group that's better than them to compete. It's like, no, we'll take the leader, the best part of that group, the writer and the best singer, and put him in our group. And that's exactly what they did. But they tried to make me look bad and make it like it was my fault. They had to do it. But they had already done it. He was already on the road with us. They were like, we're going to be the next Jodeci. That was their plan. And it ultimately failed. But, like the whole situation was insane. It was just so many things were happening at so fast. Like there was a situation that there's so many situations. It's hard to like get a grip on all of them and stay like on track.
That's okay.
But so there was a situation where we were filming all of our videos at once, 5 days, 5 shoots. And Baby Blue is like, look, because I grew up breakdancing. So I breakdanced in a crew. We started off as Caution Crew, and then it turned into Get Down Gang, which is still breaking now. A shout out to Get Down Gang, but at the time, he was like, look, you breakdance, so I want you to call some of your boys, have them fly out there, and they can be in the video. And he was like, we can't pay them. He was like, and they got to get their own flights, but they get to come out, hang out with you, hang out with Pretty Ricky. You get to be in a Pretty Ricky video and say they were in the video. And so I'm like, all right, word. And I'm out there by myself. So I'm like, I would love to see my boys. So I call my boy, Chris. He actually goes by Chose now. He's a rapper himself. And then my boy Kid Cuba. And I'm like, look, y'all, I was like, they're not going to pay for your flights. But if you fly out here, you'll be in the video. It's about to come out, and you'll get to hang out for a week with me, And they're like, all right, word. So they buy their tickets, they fly out, and then they get there, and their dad, Big Blue, Pretty Ricky's dad, is like, what the hell is Foreplay's friends doing here when we got this busy ass week? And Baby Blue's like, man, I don't know. They just told him to come out here. That's Foreplay shit. I'm like, You asked me to have them come out there. So while they got out there, they treated them. First of all, they made them all sleep on the floor. Because I was sleeping in a little room, you know, on a futon. Made them sleep in that little room with me. Treated them like dirt the whole time. Like, y'all shouldn't even be here. What are y'all doing with us? Like, we're Pretty Ricky. Like, what are y'all doing here? Treated them, made them like, it was like, all right, well, if they're going to be here, then they're going to do work. They're going to work. So they're carrying stuff for the shoot, doing all this work. Like, it was a terrible experience. Then it comes to the day to shoot the video, and he's like, we're not doing the song that I wanted to do for that video, so they're not going to be in it. And I was like, come on, bro, you can't do that. Like, they flew out here, like, not to mention you told your dad it was my idea. This was your idea. I wasn't even thinking about that, like, because I didn't have any pull at all. So I was just like shutting up and just like doing what I was told. So I wasn't like, yeah, let me bring my friends out here to this experience. Like, no, this was your idea, and they flew out here. You didn't pay them. You didn't pay for their flights, anything. Like, just let them be in the video, even if it's just a little bit, so they could say they were in it. And I like argued with him, and he was like, all right, I'm gonna give you one take for them to do whatever they can do. One take. If they mess up, they mess up. It ain't making it. And I was like, all right, cool, because I believe in my boys. So I was like, all right. So they get up there, they start filming. They're doing flares, air flares. My one boy's hopping around. Kid Q was hopping around on one hand like it's nothing, kicking his legs like with just one hand. They're spinning around. The camera people and the director are like, who are these guys? You know, like, who are they? Like, they're killing it. And he's like, and Baby Blue is right next to me. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. We're just doing this to appease them. They're not keeping any of it. And I was just like, come on, man. Like, so I was like, all right, I'm done talking to him. I'm going to their dad. So I'm like, Big Blue, like, come, like, we call him the old boy. Like, old boy, like, look, this is what happened. This was his idea. They paid the money to come out here. They flew out here. They're helping out. They're doing everything. They did good. Like, ask the director. Like, they killed it. Can you just please let them be in the video for that little spot, just a little clip? If Baby Blue don't want them in the video, then he ain't gonna be in the video. And I was like, please, like, I'm begging you. He's like, shut the fuck up, foreplay. I don't want to hear no more about it. And he turns around and starts walking away. So I start, I'm like, but this isn't fair. And like, before I could get a word out, you remember those old chairs that were like, the wood was like, it was like wood, and it had like red cushions that were like fixed to the wood, like a heavy wooden chair. He picks it up and throws it at my head. And it literally, like, the back of it went over my head like this, and the cushion like would have slid across my head. It just missed me, like, just missed me. And I lose it. And I start going after him. I'm like, I don't care who you are. Like, it's going down. Like, I was like, I'm gonna beat your ass. Not right now. Like, this is, like, I've had enough, you know what I mean? And I grew up in Pittsburgh. We don't handle shit like that. So you ain't gonna throw no chair at me and turn your back on me like, like you thought this was a game. My manager at the time and Manny from Crave, they both grabbed me like, no. And he's like, oh, and then he turns around. He's like, oh, you want a problem? I was like, oh, like, you know, like, I don't care who you are. They're scared of you. I'm not. And Big D and Manny are crying. And I'm like, you just gonna let them do this to us? Like, we're supposed to be a team. We're a team before we even met them. You're gonna let them treat me like this? He threw a chair at my head, and they're just crying. They're not saying anything. And that's when I knew that I was completely alone. And then I started listening to things, you know, and that's when I realized what was actually going on. They were paying my manager, who I was friends with and who I worked for 5 years before we even knew anything about Pretty Ricky. They were paying him to keep me working and to like be like, when I would ask him about money, like, when are we gonna get paid? And when is the, oh, you're gonna be rich, don't worry about it. That money comes later, and you gotta pay the label back, and this is happening, and da. But I didn't know that they signed their deal before there was a 360 deal, before the labels took a part of everything. All of our merch, that was our money. All of our tours, that was our money. Like, all the shows that we did without the label, that's our money. we're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he was just keeping it. They were just keeping it. I know the reason why, which I won't divulge, but they were just keeping it. And they were paying my manager a percentage to keep me quiet, to just keep me working and doing what I needed, what they wanted me to do. And it broke me, you know, because it's like, not only are they, it's like, this is my family, you know, and this is, you know, and after that, I was like, that's when I called Wanye.
Yeah.
You know, and
What year was this that you made that phone call?
This is 2010.
Okay.
You know, and the next thing that happened after that, what made me leave was, so you'll know the year because that was the year that the Notorious movie came out, the Biggie Smalls movie. So we went to a special viewing, the first viewing premiere of that movie. It was down in Miami. There was nobody there except for press, us, Puffy, Faith, you know, the cast of the movie, and that was it. We watched the movie, and I have, you probably hear it throughout the show, but I have really bad sinus issues. So once you went into the theater, because of the people who were there, you were not allowed to leave and come back. So I was all stuffed up the whole time, and I didn't have any tissue. So after we got out of there, I was like, we were waiting. We were all out in the, you know, in the foyer, and we're talking to the cast and everything, shaking everybody's hand. And I was told my manager, Big D, I was like, look, I'm gonna run to this bathroom, and I'm going to blow my nose real quick because my nose is starting to run. I didn't want to be in front of all these famous people with it. So I'm like, all right. So he's like, all right, yeah. The bathroom was literally where that door is. It's like 3 feet away, 4 feet away. I walk in the bathroom, I blow my nose, I come back. Everything's fine. We're laughing. We're ready to leave. And Slick is on the steps talking to some girl. And Baby Blue is like, yo, Slick, the trucks is here. We're rolling. And he's like, man, I'll be there in a minute. I'm like, calm down. That pisses Baby Blue off, but he can't do anything to him about it because he's Slick, you know, and he's his brother, his older brother, you know. So he's like, all right. So they go in the trucks. We go in the truck. Slick finally comes in, and we start driving. We're laughing, talking about the movie, and all, you know, like just having a good time. And then Baby Blue sitting in we're in like a one of those big Fords, but the ones that have the like bucket seat that has the row in the middle. So he's sitting on that seat, and in the middle of talking about it, anyway, foreplay, don't you ever fucking go nowhere without telling me where you at. And I'm just like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, and why are you talking to me about that? Like that, you know? And he's like, I was like, I didn't go anywhere. He was like, I saw you. You went to the bathroom, did whatever you were doing. Like, don't go nowhere unless you think somebody ain't gonna kidnap you or da-da-da. I'm like, and then they're gonna hold you for ransom, and then we're gonna have to pay. I'm like, what are you talking about? And why are you trying to disrespect me right now? Oh, I'm disrespecting you? And he swung at me. That was the third time he swung at me since I had been there. And I snapped because I'm like, well, actually, I didn't snap. I just was like, you know what? This ain't flying this time. So he swung at me. He missed, and then as his arm went past, I pushed him into his seat, and I just start hitting him. And I'm just like, yeah. And then my manager's like, Big D's like, stop, what are you doing? I'm like, all right, I'm cool. But he ain't gonna be swinging at me like I'm some kid. And then he dived at me. And then I put him in a, like a
chokehold.
Chokehold. And I was
bar.
like, yeah, like I was, and then I snapped. And I'm like, and I started saying like some of the most craziest stuff I've ever said. I don't even remember what I was saying because I was like just seeing red. And I was like, all I could think is everything that he had done to me in the last 3 years. And then my manager slapped me and I let him go, you know. And he like falls back into the seat and he's crying. And his eyes look like like people like they take a hamster and they squeeze them. Eyeballs. Like, I don't know if I should be saying this. Like,
Don't squeeze hamsters.
This is yeah.
He didn't actually squeeze.
I didn't actually
He's never
squeeze
squeezed
the
the
hamster,
hamster. I never squeezed the hamster.
But I've seen YouTube videos
Yeah.
of what happened. But he's sitting there and he's crying, and I'm just like, pull the truck over. And we're on 95. This is like the second time this has happened to me. Pull the truck over. I'm going home right now. Like, I don't screw this group. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll go home. I'll walk home. I don't care. Just let me out of the truck. So then they pull over the trucks and I go to get out and the door's locked. So I'm like trying to get the door open. And the one time I open it, try to pull the thing, the door pulls open. And then Slick and Speck are there. And they just dive in. So now I'm like laying in the middle and everybody's like trying to punch at me. Like, so now there's 3 of them, but they can't hit me because they're over the chairs and I'm laying on the ground. So they're all trying to hit me and they can't reach me. But then there was this cane that Baby Blue used to carry around with him. Because I don't know, he thought he was whatever.
A pimp.
Yeah. So he pulled the rubber stopper off and smacked me in the corner of my eye with it. Like, it just hit me like a pool, like he just jabbed me. So my eye starts bleeding. And now I don't even care about them. I just grab that pole and I'm just trying to dodge this thing. And I'm like, and then they all jump out. They grab bricks off the side of the road and big rocks. And they're like, get out the truck, get out the truck. And I was just like, nah, I'm cool. I was like, I ain't fighting with no bricks. Like, I ain't 3 of y'all with bricks. Like, y'all put the bricks down, we can go. Yeah. Like, because, but I ain't losing my teeth and my, like getting brain damage over this stupid. And then my manager had called their dad. So he's on the phone. He puts the phone, he puts him on speakerphone and he's like, won't y'all stupid assholes get in the car? He's like, one of y'all touch him, y'all have to answer to me. Get in the other truck and get back to the house. So we're like, all right. So they get in the other truck. We drive back to the house. But I've already made up my mind. I'm like, I'm leaving. So we get to the house. Their dad comes down. He's like, look, like, foreplay, what happened? Like, can you just come upstairs and we can talk it out? I want to hear your side of the story. I was like, I'm never going in that house again. I was like, I'm never going up there. And he's like, look, please, like, out of respect for me, like, you don't have to stay, whatever you want to do. But I just wanted us to sit down and I want to hear what happened. He was like, nothing's going to happen to you. I was like, I'm not, like, I don't, he's like.
You probably don't believe anything he said anyways.
Like, I'm like, I ain't scared of them anyway, but he's like, that's not the point. I just want to hear your side of it. I just want us to all sit down and talk. I was just like, all right, cool. Out of respect for you, I'll come up. So I go upstairs, even though I don't respect him at this point. He just threw a chair on my head a week ago, So we go upstairs, and I'm like, and I explain what happened. My manager explains what happened. And then they all turn on Blue. Like, because they know he's an asshole. He doesn't know how to deal with people. He's one of those people who's too smart for their own good, but he's super smart, but he's doesn't know how to deal with people. Okay. Like, he's a good, I don't know how to explain it. But so they've all had run-ins with him talking out of his mouth, but it's an act. Like, he'll talk all big and bad and get loud, and he's a good actor at that.
And then he's crying in the seat of the truck.
Spectacular slaps him in the middle of the mall, and then he shuts right up. You know what I mean? But that's his brother. He can do that. I am the new guy. You know what I mean? So it was always like that. But so they all turn on him, and then they're like, all right, we apologize. We didn't know that what happened. All we heard was that you're beating up our brother. So that's why we jumped in it, so would you expect, what you expect us to do? I'm like, yeah, I get that, but we know how he is too. So, and then their dad is like, all right, well, let's everybody just go to bed, go to sleep. Like, families fight, wake up in the morning and we'll get on about our business, and it's all love. So everybody went to bed. I laid in the bed until about 3 o'clock in the morning, waited till everybody was asleep, packed everything that I could, and had my friend come and take me to the Greyhound station, and I never went back. And I went home, to nothing. I went home to my old car, most of my savings gone, you know, had to work security, you know what I mean? Like, and luckily, and the thing about it that I take from this situation, because that was a hard decision to make, to leave, you know, Miami to come back to Pittsburgh, living in a mansion, you know, doing everything that I love to do. It was a hard decision to make, to come back, to knowing I was coming back with nothing. I had to borrow money from our boy Quentin to get the
bus
ticket.
ticket.
You know, like
You're a freaking hip hop star, and you're borrowing money to get a bus.
to take a Greyhound.
It just does not make
You know,
sense.
and you know, I couldn't even fly Greyhound from Miami to Pittsburgh, and then I get back, and this is what I take from it. The lesson that I take from the situation is that if you are ever to get big or be successful at whatever it is, you become this big lawyer, or you become this big basketball player, football player, singer, whatever it is, like, never leave the ones that you love behind. Never stop answering the phone. Don't change your number and get too big for these people, because the ones that you love that are the ones you have to keep close, because those are the ones that are going to have your back when you come home. Like, if I would have done that, I would have had nothing when I came home. But when I arrived at the Greyhound station, Jesse picked me up. It's like, look, dude, you just move right back in with me. I actually just bought a house. Just move right in there until you get back on your feet. I had people letting me borrow money. He actually took care of my car and kept my car while I was gone, you know, like, and they stopped paying him rent after the first year, like my half of the rent, even though I'm out to Miami. They stopped paying him rent. They were like, we'll pay till the end of the year, and then he got to figure out something else or get a new roommate. And it's like, and I had I couldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? So, you know, shout out to Jesse Mater. He had my back. Well, all my friends had my back. And that's because I never stopped answering the phone. Whenever I came to town, you know, there was always a ticket. I was always stopping home, you know, or they were at the hotel with me. Like, I never lost touch with anybody, and that saved me, you know what I mean? I didn't feel like I came home to nothing. I feel like I came home to family.
So Pretty Ricky didn't try to keep you from your friends either?
No, they didn't do that.
Good.
It was more just about control of me, you know, while I was there, having control and making sure that I couldn't do anything on my own. Like, literally, and everybody was involved, even my manager. Like, when I said we did that 300th episode of 106 in Park, one of the people that I mentioned that was there was LL Cool J, you know, who's a legend, you know what I mean? And I sat out in front of his dressing room for an hour just trying to say hello. But there were so many reporters and everything out there that every time he would open the door, they'd be like, and he would pick one, and then they would come in. And then eventually he poked his head out, and they're like, yo, LL, da da da. And he's like, all right, hold on. Like, my man been sitting here quietly for however long. Let me talk to him real quick. So he's like, what's up, man? You know, like, what's going on? And I was just like, yo, like, I just wanted to thank you for being a pioneer for everything that you've done. You know what I mean? Like, you led the way for me to even be here now. And I was just like, I just wanted to say that I appreciate everything that you've done, and thank you. And he was like, man, people do not say stuff like that anymore. He was like, especially people new in the game. He was like, they don't show that love and that appreciation. He was like, here's my card. He was like, if you ever have any questions, like, about the industry, or you need some advice or some help, just call me, you know, and I got you, you know. And I was like, thank you, you know, I appreciate that. And then when we got back, I told my manager what happened, and he was like, and he's from New York, and he's like, oh man, I used to I had some business I had to do with LL back in the day that we were working on back in the day, and I just lost touch with him. I need to get back in touch with him. Let me get that card. And I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, that's my, you know, because this is like my brother, you know what I mean? So I didn't even think about it. And back then, you wasn't a habit to store all the numbers in your phone like that. And I didn't even think about it. I just passed him the card and kept it moving. And he didn't know LL Cool J. That was just a way of me not having a maneuver around him, or them, and I didn't realize it until way later. It's just like the manipulation that was going on was just, it was epic. They won. They did it. They did what they set out to do.
So you're back in Pittsburgh after all of this. I mean, these stories are nuts, and I know you have 100 more, but your identity was stripped away for 3-ish years, right? How long did it take to get that back once you moved back?
So it took me about a year, because for the first 4 months, I was like, I'm done with music. I'm done. You know, I did the things I wanted to do, and I got screwed. And like I said, and when we first started the podcast, I felt like life was a big joke. Like it was like, here's your fame and fortune. Psych. It's a game. It was like, and that's how I always felt. It's like we moved to a new house and be like, all right, everything's going to be good now. Nope, you're evicted. You just finally were able to afford a Nintendo or a Sega Genesis. Nope, somebody broke in and stole it. Like my whole life was like that. Relationships, like it was always like, oh, okay, this is the psych, and this was the big one. This was the, now I'm on top. Like to the point where I was on top. Like, it's so hard to explain the difference, but here's a good way to explain it. Like, I was a week before I got signed, or before I left, I was in that breakdance crew. We were still Caution Crew at the time. And no, we actually had switched to a Get Down Gang. And we were doing a show. This was when Flow Rider just came out, and Low was a huge record. And he was performing at a skating rink in Cheswick, like out by Harmerville.
That's where my sister and her husband met.
Wow.
Yep. Chess Arena.
Yep. So he was performing out there, and they hired us to dance in front of the stage when he was performing. So this was like this huge thing. Like, oh, we're going to be performing for Flow Rider. Like, we're going to be breakdancing in front of the show. This huge thing. A month after that, he's opening for me. He's opening. Trey Songz is opening, who I always looked up to. He's opening. We're the main act. And Flow Rider is first. It's Trey Songz, and then us. And I'm the lead. Like, that's how fast it was, And then I was on top. Now I'm working at Heinz Field, doing security overnight. Just like that.
Wow.
So it was a whiplash, man. It was a whiplash, and it was, I even forget the point that I was trying to get to, but it was that. I think you asked, like, what was it like to be
get your identity?
So what I did was, for that first 4 months, I didn't do anything. I sat on the couch and stared at the wall, literally. Like, what am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do now? Music's over. What am I going to do? And then I had a dream about a book that I wanted to write. The book was called The Shinobi, Tales in the Night Wind. It's about ninjas. Everybody always like, whoa, it's about music and your life in music. I'm like, no, it's about ninjas. Because I've always been in the Japanese culture, like growing up, and I did martial arts my whole life. So I always loved those type of movies and those type of stories.
Well, one group was Tokyo, what was it?
Radio Tokyo.
Radio Tokyo,
Has
yeah.
nothing to do with that. That was before
okay.
me. I'm the only one who's been to Tokyo out of the whole band.
Got it.
And, so I had a dream about a plot, a part of the plot that I could never figure out. And once I had that dream, I woke up the next day, I started writing. And I didn't stop writing for 6 months. And then once I finished that book, I was like, I got a call from a producer. He's actually in Monroeville. His name's Van Taylor. He had just moved to Pittsburgh, and he had built this studio, and he didn't have any artists to work with. And he was like, we should work together. We should do I heard about you. We should do some projects. And I was like, nah, man, I'm done with the music. And, I'm cool. And he was like, look, man, just come in. Just come in. We'll just record some stuff. You don't have to use it or anything. He's like, but I need to practice. You know what I mean? Like, let's just do something. I don't have anybody here to work with. I don't know any artists. And somehow he convinced me, and I was like, all right, cool. And we did the first record, and we just didn't stop. We just didn't stop. And we had this chemistry together that was just phenomenal. Anytime he would send me something, I would just be able to, we would just write this amazing music. And I ended up doing a mixtape called A Game, and an album that's still on iTunes now. It's called Spaceship. And it's one of my projects that I'm really proud of, you know, and that's how I kind of snapped out of it. But I had to delve into another part of my creative mind and put that kind of on the back burner for a little bit to kind of get that back, you know, to kind of be like, all right, I breathed, I gave myself some space to breathe. Now I can get back to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've been grinding ever since.
So you found your passion for music again.
Exactly.
How much of your past experiences do you use in your writing? No offense, I don't listen to your music. I'll probably start after this. But, like, how much of that experience is fuel for those songs?
Well, a lot of it, because I like to, when I write music, to feel like I'm giving a little part of me, or somebody is learning a little bit about me as I'm writing. So there's a lot of relationship stuff in there, a lot of breakup stuff in there. I just wrote a song called Imagine.
Saw the video.
Thank you. And it's about breaking up with somebody, but still being able to imagine what it could have been, and appreciating the good of the relationship. Like, because yeah, things happen, people make mistakes, and you have bad times, but there's also a reason that you were with that person. There's also a lot of good that was in that relationship, and that's why you were there. So if you can leave the relationship with some thoughts of the good that you gain from that, then you won't feel like you just wasted a bunch of time in your life. You won't wait. You haven't wasted a bunch of years of your life being with this person because they made this mistake. You know, I mean, obviously that doesn't apply to everyone, you know, in every situation, but a lot of situations, you know, are good, and then something bad happens, or a couple bad things happen in a row, and then you end it. But if you can appreciate the good that came from it and the lessons that you learned from it, then you won't feel like you've wasted so much time, because time is all we have as human beings. Like, you don't want to feel like you wasted years of that time. So you want to look at everything that you do. Like I said, like even with the Pretty Ricky thing, like I still appreciate everything that they did for me and the opportunity that they gave me, because if I don't, then that was just a waste of 3 years that I did. Yeah. You know, and I don't feel like that was a waste. You know, I got to do things that other people would only dream of. I got to, you know, I got to perform at the highest level of music. You know what I mean? Like, even though I didn't get paid for it, so what? When I was a child, I wasn't thinking about any money. I achieved every goal that I wanted when I was growing up in music. When I thought about music, it was pure to me. It was like, all right, I want to perform in front of thousands of people. I want to hear them singing the songs. I want them to love the songs. I want to just do what I love doing on stage. I want to have people have posters of me on the wall, like, and be excited about, you know, my art and everything that I'm doing, that, and appreciate the love of it the same way that I do. Now, when you are an adult and you want to start a family and you want to have a life, your goals change, and it's like, all right, now I need to make money too off of this. You know, I can't. But when it's completely pure and it's not about any money or anything like that, your goals are just about doing what you're doing in the best way you could possibly, and reaching the most people that you possibly can. And that dream is still there for me. But now as an adult, you know, I just have goals added on to it, you know, because I have to survive, you know, doing it. And that's
passion driven now.
You know, yeah. Exactly. So it's, you know, but it's important to me. And if I never get to that level again, I can always know that I made it there. My hard work paid off, you know, that grind paid off. and hopefully it's inspired somebody else to on that grind, on that path, to do it. Because overnight it was nothing. It was, I was there overnight, and never, I never even thought that it was going to come that quickly. I always knew I would get there, and nobody could tell me no. It didn't matter how many. My mom told me, "You're never going to be a singer. You can't sing. Like you can't sing." And I was horrible. I have songs that can prove it. I was horrible at first. It took me a long time to craft my skill, and but I love it. I loved it, and I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and I push still every day. Like, like, I'm not the best vocalist, I'm not the best dancer, I'm not the best writer, but you take all of those things and you put them together, you become one of the best artists. And that's, it's a amalgamation of the things that you love. Like, I love gymnastics, I love martial arts, I love dancing, I love singing, I love writing. You put all of those things together in a soup, now you got gumbo, you got jambalaya, and now we cooking. You know what I mean?
Delicious. So, I mean, there's a nice theme here, and I think we all have big dreams, right? And
Absolutely.
Everyone should go after them. This is not to say that, no, don't go after your dreams, but with all success comes sacrifice, whether it's losing relationships, whether it's losing money, whether it's losing time, you losing your identity, like that can scare people from chasing that dream.
Absolutely.
Are you afraid to reach the top again because of that?
Absolutely not. Because now, when I go into this, like, then I was so young, like, and I wasn't so young, but I was younger, and all I could think about was, I'm here, this is my dream. And like, now I would have told them, like, don't kiss my ass. Like, I ain't doing, like, you either want me or you don't. I'll just do what like, I'm not, there's no part of me or any part of my being that could fake it now. Like, after going through that experience, like, there's no part of me that could even fake. Like, as soon as they said, yeah, we're going to change your name. If you don't, you're leaving. Like, it's like, all right, well, cool. You called me, somebody else will call me.
Yeah.
Like, you can't deny my talent, you can't deny my skill, and you can't deny my drive. Like, if you wanted me, then somebody else will want me. It's just like being in a relationship, and like somebody who's holding somebody in a relationship, like those guys who are like, oh, well, go out there and see what you can get. You ain't gonna get nobody treating you better than me, and he's hitting you. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, nah, I'm not gonna listen to that. There's plenty of options out there. There's plenty of people out there. There's plenty of fish in the sea. And I'm a good person. Like, I want to represent the good part of this business, because there's a good part of this business. Like, look at what's happening with Kendrick. You know what I mean? Like, and all the good that he preaches in his music. And that's going against the grain. He's going against the grain. And I'm not even a huge Kendrick fan, but I respect his art, and I respect how skilled he is. The message that he puts out there, and the honesty and the realness that he puts into the world, is the reason why he won those Grammys. Not because he was dissing Drake. It's because he is a real person, and he is putting a lot of energy into being a positive voice, when there's a lot of music out there that is only talking about negative and representing the negative parts of this industry and of life, and as a part of our culture as well, and I respect that, you know what I mean? And that's what I want to represent. Like, there's a lot of things that I could do. There's a lot of times where it's like, all right, you can listen to this music, and this music that's out right now, and you can emulate that, and that way more people will have eyes on you. But it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that music. I'm gonna do my music. I'm gonna do my voice and what I learned off of. I came up on Boyz II Men and Usher and Shy and Johnny Gill and New Edition and all of these artists that I loved growing up. And they didn't, they talked about what they wanted to talk about. They talked about the songs and things that happened in their life. You know, Usher's Confessions, you know, sold over 20 million copies, you know, Confessions, you know what I mean? That's a statement. And he made mistakes, and he put that in his music. He put his heart in his music, and you left learning something about him.
So, Chris, you talked about music a lot. You mentioned you wrote a book, and there's another book sitting here on the table. Do you want to explain what this book is all about and the reason for writing it?
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, my reason for writing it is because I'm a huge movie fan, like especially horror. And that's one of the things that I got from my mom. She got me into horror movies, and it's always been a love of mine. I remember my first horror movie I ever watched was Nightmare on Elm Street. And
What age were you?
I was like 7.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a 7-year-old
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. And and so I remember we were living on Lake Street in the north side, and it was nighttime. She puts on Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's the first scene where he's chasing this girl down, and she says, she turns out all the lights, she sits down with some popcorn, and we're about to watch the movie, and she's like, hold on, I got it. The neighbor is calling me down to our house. She wants to talk to me about something. I'll be right back. Leaves the movie on and just rolls. Doesn't turn on any of the lights. And so I'm just sitting there like watching Freddy Krueger for the first time in the dark by myself, in the house by myself. Like,
Oh my gosh. Piss in your pants.
but for some reason, it didn't traumatize me. It made me love horror, you know, and love movies in general. So this book, it's called The Devil's Caller, and it's a werewolf novel, because I always love like werewolves and vampires and stuff like that, and it's a movie about things coming full circle, and about your life and how it can change in one day, and it can change who you are in just one day with one incident. So the story is about a man. His name is Jovan, and he's a devout Catholic. He gives to charity and all of these beautiful things. And his whole life, all he wants to do is worship God and take care of his family. And he has a beautiful family. And there's a serial killer who is going around killing families he's a devil worshiper, and he's killing these families in like a ritualistic fashion. So, but he ends up killing the main character's family, but instead he does something different on this one. He makes the main character watch as his family gets killed. And the reason he does that is because he knows that he's the most devout out of these 7 families. So he wants to change his mind about his faith. He wants to try to change his faith. And there's more detail that goes into it about the book, but I don't want to give it away. But
Think about this, man. I don't know if you wrote this on purpose, but this could have been you. This werewolf could have been you trying to get revenge for everyone that did you wrong, right?
Yeah, it could and that's the point of the story. When I started to write the story, I wanted to write something where if you took the supernatural element away, he's just a guy who something bad happened to him. Like, cause I know me as a person. Like, I know I've never wanted to hurt anybody like that. I've never, like, I get along with everybody. I rarely have problems with people. Like my father always said, like, you respect everyone. And unless they don't they disrespect you, then there's a problem. But even still, after that, you don't want to hurt them like that, you know what I mean, in that type of situation. But I know me as a person, I know myself very well. If somebody was to kill my family or one of my best friends or, like my kid, or, like I don't have a kid, but if I had a kid and somebody took them from me, I don't care if they got caught and went to jail. I would do something to end up in that jail so I can do something about it. And there's nothing that would stop me on this earth. And I wouldn't care what happened to me after that either, or what, penalty I had to pay for that, even if it was going to hell. That's just the way my mind works. And I know that in my body and soul. You know what I mean? So I put this character in that situation with those feelings of how I would feel. I would want revenge too. It's just who I am as a person, as a old school man, like, and I know there's all kinds of people out there who are like, oh, well, you shouldn't open doors for women anymore, and you shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't be a gentleman, and there's women power and all. Yeah, I get that. But if I'm on the subway and a woman's getting her purse stolen, I'm doing something about it. Or if a guy is slapping his girlfriend walking down the street, I'm not going to stand on the other street and be like, oh, that's their business. That's just not me. Yeah. It ain't ever going to happen in front of me. And I don't care who you are. If I don't know you from a can of paint, I'm stepping in. You know what I mean? Like, so that's just the way I was brought up, So, and that's what this, this story is about. What would you do if you were in that type of situation and your family or something like that was taken from you? What would you do? And then after you did something, you might make a bad decision, but there's always a way back. There's always a way to be forgiven if you actually want that. If you don't feed into the dark side of it, going into my nerd brain, if you don't feed into the dark side, you can actually make your way back from a bad decision like that, and if you take the supernatural element about it, yeah. it's just a guy who is hurting because he lost his family, and
I think that's a relatable message for anybody. Like you said, werewolf aside.
Yeah. Like, and I just always wanted to write a supernatural. I love werewolves. I used to ask my friends, like for some reason I would ask them, like, if you were sitting in your house, just sitting, in your living room, a regular night watching TV, and then a werewolf broke through your door, like, what would you do? Like a beast, not some guy that kind of looks like the werewolf yeah. that looks like a beast monster. Like, what would you do? Would you freeze? Would you try to fight it, or would you just run and just jump head first out of the window? And I know my answer every time. I'm not even thinking about it. I'm jumping out the window. I'm not getting torn apart by no monster. You know what I mean? If I can move at all, but I ain't trying to fight it. Like, so I wanted to write something. I always wanted to write a story about this unstoppable monster, but I wanted it to have a good characters and character arc and a good story that was different than just guy gets bit by a werewolf. Yeah. He turns into a werewolf. He kills a bunch of people and then he dies, by a silver bullet or whatever. Like, we've seen that story before. So I wanted to write something that was, had a good plot and a good catch to it.
Serious question. Who played the best werewolf? Lon Chaney, Jack Nicholson, or Michael J. Fox?
Man, most people would say Lon Chaney, but I love that wolf movie. I love it. Like, I just, like I said, it was a great story about a man who was down on his, at the worst part of his life. He lost his job to his, protege. So he basically taught him how to take over for him. And then that guy stole his job, begged for it, stole his job, spoilers, and slept with his wife at the same time. And then he just happens to get bit by this wolf and change. And then now all of a sudden he's dating Catwoman. He's dating, what's her name? Michelle Pfeiffer. And becomes this werewolf and gets to get his revenge on his protege. Yeah. And I was like, that is a great story. And that's not even, and it's the same thing. It's the same kind of thing. It doesn't even have, doesn't have to be a werewolf element in that movie. Right. He's like, you know what? After he becomes a werewolf, he also is like, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up on my career. I'm going to call. He was a publisher for a writing company, and he was just like, you know what? I'm just going to fade into obscurity and take this job in London or wherever they wanted to send him, and I'm just going to do, just live with it. And then after he becomes a werewolf, he's like, you know what? I'm going to call all of the best writers, because they all love me, and I'm going to steal them, and I'm going to start my own company. I'm not going to do my own thing, and then you're going to be screwed. If you don't give me my job back and get rid of this guy, you're going to be screwed because I'm going to take everybody with you. I'm going to take everybody with me, and they're all going to leave. And that's a
Sounds
great
like Pretty
story.
Ricky.
Yeah, that's a great story in itself. Just a man, he's down on his luck and has everything taken away from him, and he finds the ambition and the drive to come back and take back everything that was taken away from him. And that is my story, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that was his story, and that's why I love that movie. But actually, my favorite werewolf movie is actually Dog Soldiers.
Okay, I've never seen that.
It's a British movie, and it's about these soldiers who get sent into the woods on a training exercise, but they're not really there for a training exercise. They're bait for another special ops team to track these werewolves. So they put them in the woods so the werewolves will go after them, and then they'll come in and try to catch them so they can study them and different things like that.
Yeah.
It's a awesome movie, and the werewolves look awesome in it. You
Yeah.
know, like it's a great movie.
So, Chris, we have two traditions on this show. One is typically we'll sip on some beverage, whether it's water, sometimes it's bourbon, sometimes it's something else. You said you don't drink alcohol anymore. Why is that?
Well, actually, I've never tasted alcohol.
Really?
I've never tasted alcohol, never smoked weed, no cigarettes, nothing.
I mean, I don't want to say I'm surprised because that sounds like a shitty thing to say, but being in the industry you were in, I'm surprised.
No, most people are surprised. Now, the reason, I never had like my dad wasn't an alcoholic. I've never had any alcoholics in my life, really, or anything like that. It was just one of those things when I was growing up and I decided I wanted to do music. I also decided I'm not going to do anything that's going to slow my progression. And, when you're a kid, you're taught like drinking is bad, smoking is bad, doing drugs is bad. And they try to put that in your head and don't dare not to do drugs. I'm dating myself, but but I was like, I am not doing that. I'm not going to do I felt like it's bad and I'm going to get in trouble and then my career is over. My music career is over. I'm going to smoke cigarettes. I'm going to ruin my voice and then my career is over. I'm going to smoke weed and I'm going to ruin my voice and my career is over. I'm going to drink and, something.
Yeah,
and
we've all seen behind the music where drugs and alcohol ruins people's careers.
Exactly.
Right?
And I was just like, I am not doing anything that is going to slow my roll. Or make me, make a mistake where I'm screwed, and I can't do music anymore. I was like, it's too important to me. But, and, then when I got older and it was like, all right, I can drink, I'm legally can drink and different stuff like that. I had seen my friends, getting sick. We had to pull over the car. They're like, head out the window, throwing up, different stuff like that. I've seen people have kids with people that they didn't want to have kids with because they were a drunk night. And I was just like, yeah, I want zero parts of any of that.
Great answer.
But it's, and it's also, like I said, I learned a lot from my dad. My dad drank, he loved to drink beer and he smoked cigarettes. Cigarettes is what actually, took him from us, and, so cigarettes was never an option for me. I remember he almost burned our house down once because with that house I was talking about on Lake Street in the north side, he fell asleep with a cigarette in his mouth and the couch caught on fire. Jeez. And it was literally it wasn't so much fire. It was just plumes of smoke. Like the whole house was filled with smoke. And me, my sister and my mom, we all woke up and she got us out of the house. He's still asleep on the couch. And the whole house is filled. I mean, when we got downstairs to the living room, it was so much smoke. It looked like a volcano had erupted. I was surprised he was still alive. He's still asleep on the couch. And we woke him up and got him out of the house. And luckily, the house didn't burn down. It was just the couch.
Jeez.
Thank God. But, smoking was never an option for me. But, this also goes with the movies, but with the book. But I also learned a lot from movies. When I was growing up, I was always a huge fan of movies, and superheroes and different things like that. And while my dad was teaching me respect and how to be a respectful person, and my Sifu, Raymond Anderson, he taught me martial arts. He was teaching me how to be a good person, how to, how to treat other people, and how to, that martial arts is not about fighting. It's about learning how not to fight and how to control, you know, as men, like they say we have toxic masculinity or whatever, but masculinity is not toxic. It is what makes us run into a firefighter, run into a burning building to save somebody, or get the women and children out first. Or we're sleeping, you and your wife are sleeping in your bed and you hear the window break to hide them, and you go out there. That is not toxic. That is masculinity.
Yeah.
And that is what a man is supposed to do and supposed to be.
Chivalry.
You know what I mean? Like, that is what is going to make you, that is inherent in us, so that we can protect our children, that is in the animal kingdom, that is in, that's in human nature to be that way. But then there are assholes, who,
I just call them bitches.
yeah, who take that and they want to do bad things with that. That's, and that is them. There are always going to be bad people, but then there are people who use that inherent energy, and that masculinity to do the right thing, to protect women and to protect children and protect their friends and family. And those people taught me a lot about that, but I also learned a lot about that from movies. Like, and people think like movies are a waste of time. I go to the movies once or twice a week, guaranteed, like without fail. But when I was growing up, and all my friends, a lot of people around me were watching, gang stuff and listening to the people in the neighborhood and learning how to sell drugs and doing all these different things. My head was buried in those stories, those movies, Princess Bride, and Van Damme movies and different things like that, Stallone movies where he's the one-man army, Schwarzenegger, where they're always, the one common thing about them was they were always protecting a woman. They were always protecting children. They were always doing the right thing. And yeah, they might drink, they might smoke a cigar, they might be doing those things, but that part wasn't the part that caught on to me. It was always about, they were the hero, they were the good person, they were the one who were making the good decisions. You know what I mean? And that grew in me. And I learned that, how to be a good person, from people around me, but also from those movies. And I love all of those movies today,
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to me, that I feel like people should know that you can get a lot from stories. Our whole life, or our whole life is based around stories about religion from the past. Those are just stories, that things that have happened in the past. Even if you don't believe in religion, they're still good stories, all of them.
Most stories are based on reality in some form.
Exactly, in
right?
some form.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you learn from those. A good story can change the world. But what's really important to me, and has always been important to me since I was a kid, is legacy.
That's
What do you
such a
leave
great
behind?
word. Yep.
What do you leave behind? What am I going to be able to tell my kids that I did while I was here, and the type of things and the type of person that they should be? You know what I mean? Like, when they're here, while they're living their lives, and what are they going to teach to their kids? That is the only thing that is important to me, is legacy. How do I feel like, and also when it's time for me to leave, how do I feel about how I lived my life, the person that I was, how I treated the people that I've come in contact with? You know what I mean? I have friends, and people, that are lifelong friends, and relationships that I was in relationships with that I'm still cool with, most of them, because it's like, they might have made a mistake, but I'm not going to hold that grudge for you forever. You know what I mean? It's a long life to be holding that. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like a lot of us are stuck sometimes. A lot of us are stuck in a moment or something that has happened, something tragic, maybe something traumatic. And life is too short. You have to let those things go. They might be a part of you and ingrained in you, and they may be there, but you have to learn a way to let it go, even if it's through therapy or just self-reflection, or just driving forward to the next thing. But you have to find a way to let those things go so that you can build your own legacy, because those things do not hold you. They do not contain you. You are not trapped in a jail cell. You're in the world. You can go to Japan and have a completely different life. It's completely different over there. And most people don't even leave their neighborhoods, or they don't leave their city. I've talked to many people who have never traveled, have never experienced any different culture. So in that case, yeah, you are in a bubble. You haven't seen how other people live and how other things, the way things are in different worlds. And if you aren't doing that, you are doing yourself a disservice, because life is too short to just be stuck.
Yep.
And I hope that if out of everything that we talked about here and everything that I've experienced, that some people will be able to listen to, and all the people that come onto your podcast, 'cause I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's a beautiful thing what you do here. I hope that people subscribe and tune in and listen to these stories, because they're important. Just because you don't know these people, and it's important to listen to these things, because life is just too short for all of us, and we need to be better people. We need to be better to each other and live a life.
No.
Yeah. Like it's not easy. Life is not easy. I admit that, but it's a beautiful thing, and your life is beautiful, and it's worth making the most of it.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better myself. You got to start coming on this side, and you can. Jeez, I mean, dude, that's a great message. I'm glad that you understand the point of this show, and B, the learning experience that the viewer can get from just listening. I've barely said anything on this episode. I'm just here to listen to you, right? Because what you have to say is very important. I have so many people sit in that seat and they're like, I'm not even that interesting. Why do you want to talk to me? It's like, hold on a second. Let's let you talk about your life, and then you're going to realize how interesting you really are. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, everyone deserves a voice. Everyone needs the opportunity to tell their stories, because it can help somebody else. So the other tradition we have is arm wrestling, buddy.
Come on, man.
I've seen yours. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, man.
Oh, you're gonna okay. Cue the sexy music.
All right. So you made Daisy Jade arm wrestle?
She sure did. Every single guest has arm wrestled me, except for one, but she has rheumatoid arthritis. So.
Oh wow.
But that was a pretty good excuse. But yeah, Daisy Jade arm wrestled me. I had owners of a hair salon, 2 females, arm wrestled me at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was adorable.
So I'm putting it out there that this is just to make him look good.
Oh,
This is what he
can't.
made this whole part just to make him look good. He's like, you know what we should do? Arm wrestling. Yeah.
Throw me under the bus, bro. Come on. You've seen Hot Ones, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is my version of Hot Ones.
Okay.
Because you have to answer a question as we're arm wrestling.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
So let's go.
What's that Stallone movie? Over the Top?
Don't be flipping your hat backwards.
Yes.
I'm gonna get scared. All right. This is for entertainment, but we're 2 grown-ass men here, so
Yeah.
we want a little bit of a fight.
All right.
All right. So you can start whenever you're ready, buddy. Go ahead.
All right. What's the question?
I'll tell you in a second.
He's like taking it easy on me.
All right. So you've met a lot of really famous people, dude. Who do you still want to meet that you haven't met yet?
Definitely Usher.
All right, that's cool.
There was no way that was happening. As soon as he grabbed my hand, I was like, yeah, I'm not winning.
Hey, at least you can admit it. So Usher, huh?
Absolutely. Like, I just feel like he is one of the most influential artists of our time. Like, he's the Michael Jackson of this time. Like, and he's still doing it. He's still doing it just as big as he was, back in the day. But every time that he comes, like, my 2 favorite artists to listen to now are Usher and Chris Brown.
Okay.
And, Chris Brown is amazing vocally, dance-wise, performance, like he's an amazing artist. I've seen him 3 times now.
I hear this all the time from my girlfriend.
Yeah, like he
wants to marry Chris
He's
Brown.
amazing. He is amazing.
Yeah.
Every time him and Usher do a video together, Usher destroys him every single time. It's just different. He's a different, like he's just. It's not a competition, between them two, or anything like that. But he just has this smoothness about him that looks effortless. Everything he do just looks like it's so effortless. And also, every time he does a album, he gets so much better. Like he makes leaps from album to album vocally. Like it's like I'm like, how did he? There was a time where Usher was. After his first album, his voice changed because he was, he was in puberty, and so when his first album came out, and then My Way, between that he was about to lose his voice. He almost lost his deal because of it, and he worked through it with voice coaches, and and he's so far from that now. Like he just progressed and progressed and progressed and progressed, and he worked so hard to get better and better and better. And even at his age right now, he always sings while he's performing, while he's dancing. There's a lot of artists that go out there and they just play the track, and they might dance, but they're not singing, they're lip syncing.
Yeah.
He never did that. He's him, like there's very few artists that do that, like him, Beyonce, NSYNC, Justin Timberlake, like they actually sing the songs while they're dancing and performing, which takes a lot of work, running on the treadmill while you're singing. It takes a lot of endurance. And I respect that. And I just, he gave me that my performance came from him,
I was going to say, he reminds me a lot of you and your story.
Yeah,
you couldn't sing worth a damn when you were a kid, but you didn't quit. You kept trying to perfect your craft, and you grew into a star, essentially, and living in the mansion in Miami, and posters, and everyone wants to meet you, and you built that. You didn't just roll off the couch one day.
It was not easy.
Right.
I go back and listen to those songs from back then a lot, just to make sure that I stay humble, and don't start believing my own hype, because being humble is very important. And like I said, like if I wasn't, I would have lost a lot of people, and then I would have came home to nothing. So, it's very important to know where you came from and where you started. So whenever you get wherever it is that you're going to get, you're grounded.
Appreciation, my man.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Dude, you've been very entertaining to talk to, and I know you've got 100 more stories. Maybe we'll do like a round 2 one day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love to, man. I love the platform.
I appreciate
it's awesome. I love the meaning of this whole thing is just a great thing. So I appreciate being here. Absolutely.
Thank you. And if you like this episode, which I know you did, hit the like button. Please subscribe. It helps me, it helps Chris, and helps all my future guests. Watch one of these episodes, and I will see you on the next episode of Barbells and Bourbon. Peace.
Yeah, buddy.